Hi, my name is Anne.
I'm Tim. We work at the International Civil Liberties Monitoring Group.
Today we want to share with you our concerns around the creeping increase of facial recognition technology, including for surveillance, both by private companies and government agencies.
It's unclear if a democratic society should ever use facial recognition because of the threat it poses to our rights. What is clear, though, is that facial recognition technology needs to be studied, and there needs to be public debates and strong regulations. And that's if we decide to allow facial recognition at all. Right now, we haven't had any of these discussions, and Canada's laws don't even talk about facial recognition.
There are already tons of evidence showing facial recognition is too far-reaching and potentially damaging to ever be used by law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Even companies like IBM, Amazon, and Microsoft agree. They announced they won't be selling facial recognition technology to police. I feel like I'm in an alternate universe.
First things first, what is facial recognition? Simply put, it is technology that uses algorithms to identify or verify the identity of an individual using digital images of their face.
Facial recognition surveillance is based on the idea that the state or corporations, and some rich and powerful individuals, and maybe one day anyone, can watch us all the time and then compare our faces to a library of photos to try and identify us. In the case of the police, this means that we are treated like suspects at all times. People act differently when they are being watched.
And if facial recognition doesn't deter people from freely expressing themselves or protesting in public spaces, it will allow police to build detailed profiles on anyone they want. Some tech can even identify people who are wearing face masks. All this undermines our right to privacy, our freedoms of assembly, expression, and movement, and the presumption of innocence. Clearview AI is an app that allows the user, including law enforcement, to take a picture of a person, upload it, and compare it to a database of images scraped from public places. The app tries to match the person of interest, and if it succeeds, it pulls up public photos of that person, along with links to where those photos appeared.
Clearview AI's database holds more than 3 billion images scraped from Facebook, YouTube, Venmo, and millions of other websites.
Its image database is almost 7 times the size of the FBI's. The technology is already being integrated into augmented reality glasses, so people can identify almost anyone they look at.
In short, they collect our images and add them to their database without our consent. They then sell this technology to police, often without any public oversight or debate. If this sounds completely sketchy, it's because it is.
This spring, we learned that the RCMP has been using the Clearview AI app since October 2019, even though it denied ever having used it.
The only reason we know is because of a leak of Clearview AI's client list.
Even worse, they've been using facial recognition technology for 18 years.
Clearview is under investigation in multiple jurisdictions. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada is currently investigating Clearview AI and its use by law enforcement, including the RCMP. In response to this investigation, Clearview has pulled out from Canada completely. That's not suspicious at all. The company is still holding on to our images and able to siphon new ones, so that's still a massive problem.
But Clearview AI isn't the only facial recognition technology company out there.
The Ontario Provincial Police and the Toronto, Calgary, Edmonton, Halifax, and Windsor Police Services have all used the technology, some only admitting to it after staying silent or first denying it.
So there's no time to waste. Here are the 4 reasons why it should never be allowed for law enforcement or intelligence agencies.
1. Facial recognition allows for the mass, indiscriminate, disproportionate, unnecessary, and warrantless search of innocent people without reasonable or probable cause.
Facial recognition technology renders us all walking ID cards. It's basically carding by a faulty algorithm. As the Canadian Civil Liberties Association puts it, it's like police fingerprinting and DNA swabbing everyone in downtown Toronto during rush hour, then processing it in a broken database processor. Clearview's CEO and co-founder, Cam Wantontat, and his associates chose to mass violate social media policies against scraping accounts to build an image warehouse of unprecedented size.
Oh, and by the way, exclusive documents obtained by the Huffington Post recently revealed that Tontat, as well as several people who have done work for the company, have deep, long-standing ties to the far right. So that's not concerning at all.
Clearview AI could identify activists at a protest or an attractive stranger on the subway, revealing not just their names, but where they live, what they do, and whom they know.
Eric Goldman, the co-director of the High-Tech Law Institute of Santa Clara University, has said, "The weaponization possibilities of this are endless. Imagine a rogue law enforcement officer who wants to stalk potential romantic partners, or a foreign government using this to dig up secrets about people to blackmail them or throw them in jail."
2. Facial recognition is inaccurate and biased.
In a test run by the American Civil Liberties Union, Amazon's recognition software incorrectly matched 28 members of U.S. Congress to mugshots, identifying them as other people who have been arrested for a crime.
More than 2,000 people in Cardiff, Wales were wrongly identified as potential criminals during the 2017 Champions League final.
Facial recognition tech falsely identified African American and Asian faces 10 to 100 times more than white faces, and the highest error rates came in identifying indigenous people.
Detroit has regulated the use of facial recognition, but according to the Detroit Police Department's own statistics, so far in 2020, it's been used almost exclusively against black people and has misidentified people 96% of the time.
Recently, a black man was arrested in Detroit after being falsely identified by facial recognition technology. He was released, but the damage was done. The ACLU of Michigan filed a complaint against the Detroit Police Department, asking that police stop using the software in investigations.
Some facial recognition systems use mugshot databases. This is a problem because many of these databases include images of people who have been arrested but not found guilty, and since more people of color are targeted by police, it increases the likelihood of their images being included in these databases and them being wrongly identified.
These errors can lead already marginalized communities to be even more likely to face profiling, harassment, and violations of their fundamental rights. This is especially concerning when we consider the technologies used in situations where biases are common, including protests against government policies and actions, when individuals are traveling and crossing borders, as well as in the context of criminal investigations, national security operations, and the pursuit of the so-called war on terror.
3. Lack of regulation of the technology and a lack of transparency and accountability from law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Canadian intelligence agencies have refused to acknowledge at all whether or not they use it.
Across the country, police forces have admitted to not disclosing their use of facial recognition, as well as to officers using the new technology without the knowledge or approval of their superiors. The Privacy Commissioner of Canada was not consulted by the RCMP before it began using Clearview AI, and the RCMP's privacy impact assessment on the use of facial recognition are nowhere to be found.
Several U.S. cities and one state are having democratic debates concerning facial recognition bans.
In Canada, only one city, Montreal, has debated and put in place some regulations on the use of facial recognition by law enforcement.
According to the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, Canadian governments at all levels that have used the technology may be liable for damages. Criminal prosecutions touched in any way by facial recognition are also in jeopardy. Further use without regulation is knowingly reckless.
For this reason, and many more, Canadian governments at all levels need to debate and regulate the use of facial recognition immediately. 4. Facial recognition is a slippery slope.
Limited use of facial recognition by law enforcement in other countries has typically led to greater and much broader rollouts of the technology. In the United States, Donald Trump has issued an executive order requiring facial recognition identification for 100% of international travelers in the top 20 U.S. airports by 2021.
In the UK, facial recognition is already being used at sports matches, street festivals, protests, and even on the streets to constantly monitor passers-by.
Some of the world's most extreme examples come from the Xinjiang region of China, where the government surveils millions of Uyghur with facial recognition technology in order to control access to all areas of public life, including parks, public transportation, malls, and city boundaries.
This is part of the Chinese government's horrendous mistreatment of Uyghurs, incarcerating them in re-education camps and violating their rights and freedoms. Half of the number of adults in the United States are now in facial recognition databases. Canada won't be far behind if we don't slam the brakes on the spread of this technology.
In the absence of meaningful policy or regulations, facial recognition technology cannot be considered safe for use in Canada.
Portland, Oregon, San Francisco, Oakland, California, Boston, and Somerville, Massachusetts have all banned the use of facial recognition by law enforcement.
There are currently several bills before the U.S. Congress calling for a moratorium, greater regulations, and even a nationwide ban.
Vermont is suing Clearview AI for unlawfully acquiring data from consumers and businesses in violation of multiple state laws. In August 2020, the UK Supreme Court found unconstitutional the use of facial recognition by UK police.
The American Civil Liberties Union and more than 100 leading organizations on privacy and civil liberties have signed a call for an international moratorium.
At the time of this recording, more than 20,000 people have signed a call from open media for a moratorium on facial recognition technology in general and a ban of the use of facial recognition by federal police and intelligence agencies in Canada.
The House of Commons Standing Committee on Ethics, Privacy, and Access to Information has voted to study the impact of facial recognition technology, and the Privacy Commissioner of Canada and the Privacy and Information Commissioners of Quebec, Alberta, and British Columbia are investigating the use of facial recognition technology.
Even though Clearview AI will be gone from Canada for now, there are many other facial recognition companies and softwares that can be used in Canada, including by the police, and some Canadian police departments are quietly adopting facial recognition tech despite its dangers.
In order to protect our rights, the ICLMG urged the federal government to do three things. 1. Ban the use of facial recognition surveillance by federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies. 2. Initiate a meaningful public consultation on all aspects of facial recognition technology in Canada. And 3. Establish clear and open policies and laws regulating the use of facial recognition in Canada, including reforms to PIPEDA and the Privacy Act.
If you agree, please take action at iclmg.ca/banfr and share the video and action webpage widely. Thanks!
ICLMG is a Canadian coalition of 47 national civil society groups that came together after the adoption of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2001 to protect civil liberties from the negative impact of the so-called War on Terror.
To see more videos like this one and support our work of protecting civil liberties in general, please visit iclmg.ca/donate or patreon.com/iclmg and get rewards. Thank you.